The UK bond market is collapsing. The Bank of England, the UK government are so desperate they are accepting the toxic sludge of Ukrainian bonds as collateral. But all of this is going to be pushed on to the British taxpayer. That's what we're going to talk about in this video.
In researching this, I also realized that it has kind of it tends to correlate with an impending crisis in the banking system. Because the the COVID pandemic started in China, I think in October of 2019,
Yeah.
somewhere around that
Yeah,
time.
the accident happened, but also in the month preceding that, and I remember this, was the repo crisis, which is a big deal.
Exactly. And then there was in September of 2019, there was the meeting of central bankers at Jackson Hole in the United States. And they were saying, oh my God, they were all saying something's going to break, something's not. And then we had the repo crisis, and then a few months later we had the pandemic and the lockdowns and so forth, which resulted in the biggest bank bailout ever, ever, but by far bigger than the 2008 global financial crisis. And that was all, masked as emergency spending. The economies are collapsing, so we have to, and so trillions and trillions of dollars were pumped into the economy. They all mostly ended up with the financial sectors and rescuing their clients, their large corporations. And so this has been kind of escalating now in the financial system again. And the ECB and the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve Bank have all had to step into the repo markets again. I think in the UK it started in the summer of 2025, if not already 2024. I forget exactly. But there was big talk about, oh, the Bank of England has to step into the repo markets. Repo markets are, just for the viewers, repo means a repurchase agreement. Basically, what happens is that banks have to close their books every day at the end of the day, and their books have to balance. And if they're short of funds, they have to borrow money from other financial institutions. Okay. And so they usually do it through repos, which means that uh, uh, let's say if I need extra cash to square my accounts and you have extra cash, basically what I would do is I would offer you some securities, some liquid securities that I have. And I would say, here, you can buy these from me today so that I have enough cash. And then tomorrow I'll buy them back off of you and I'll buy them a little bit more expensive than what you paid. So that's the equivalent of interest rates for you lending me money overnight. And so this market is huge and it's just very routine business. Banks do this every day. And usually it's overnight. It can be longer, it can be a week, it can be even a few weeks, but basically it's overnight. Now, if you suspect that I'm in a lot of trouble and that I might not be able to repurchase those securities back from you, you will say, "Thank you. No, I don't wanna buy these securities off of you." And that's when banks can start failing, right? And so if you suspect that I'm broke, you won't extend a loan to me, so I might fail. So when the repo market um, fails, that means that at least one of the major banking institutions in the systems are failing, are broke.
Sign up for my free newsletter. I will soon be doing group calls for paid subscribers. I will also be launching a community platform where people can discuss and share ideas about issues that I've covered on my channel. Links in the description below.
right? And so that's when the central bank has to step in. And then they say, okay, Alex, Rich's not going to lend you money, but we will. Okay, so what's your collateral? This, okay, fine. And so whether it was summer of 2025 or 2024, the the Bank of England stepped into the British repo market, and they were saying, "Oh, normally to be able to participate in the repo market, you would have to have really, really high quality collateral." And we know that because the British mm, financial institutions bet the ranch on Project Ukraine, and that those bonds were going to be worthless because Ukraine had defaulted previously. Uh, Everything was going to collapse. And so the Bank of England was saying, well, we have to be innovative and we have to start accepting basically toxic sludge as good collateral. What they were saying is like, okay, so if you have Ukraine bonds that Ukraine is never going to pay off, and they're worth 60 cents on the dollar, maybe on a good day. Guess what? We'll give you a dollar on the dollar again, or pound for that. We're going to take that as collateral. So you're going to sell us those bonds at face value. We're going to give you the cash for the full amount, and then you're going to buy it back from us. But maybe we don't have to do this overnight. We can extend it for, weeks, months, whatever. So that's when we knew that the British financial system would have crashed if it wasn't for the Bank of England. Same thing happened in Europe. I don't know if it was on account of Ukraine bonds. France also lost their colonies in Africa, so that's a good chunk of collateral that's become worthless. And then, in the United States also, I think as of a few months ago, Federal Reserve stepped into the repo markets. So we know that the system is on life support, basically. And I think that this is what is pushing them to declare another health emergency so that they could justify another massive bailout because how else are you going to justify giving banks trillions upon trillions of dollars or in pounds and euros that ultimately the people are going to be on the hook for?
If you enjoyed this video, you can find the whole clip right here. And don't forget to sign up for my free newsletter. Links in the description below.